There was a boy that came into this world at the hands of a holy woman in a holy place. In late 1964, a young lady in West Virginia discovered that she was pregnant. Her family, in order to save some face and to assist her in some care, sent her to Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, to a holy place where I was born in July of 1965. I never saw my mother's face. I never rested in her arms. I was taken immediately from her and placed into an adoption society. A few months later, in September of 1965, I was adopted by a young couple in their 20s who were unable to have children of their own and were blessed with the Children's Home Society of North Carolina. Bob and Susan Hannibal adopted me, took me home, and they are the only parents I ever knew. They were really, really good parents. They were firm without being overtly strict. They were loving, they were kind, and they tried very hard to share their dreams with me. Turns out I was a bit more artistic than either one of them were, and the difference in the way we saw the world occasionally caused some friction. A few days ago, I was looking through some old papers and I came across some of my old report cards from elementary school. And a lot of the teachers were saying things like, he tends to play by himself an awful lot. He has a vivid imagination. He is prone to telling tales, which I think is just a very kind way of saying that I was lying a lot. But I like to make up stories, and I would invent my own universes, and I would often go off and play by myself. I didn't much enjoy sports. I didn't much enjoy hanging out with teams, and in the delightful way that children have, I was somewhat outcast from all the groovy kids, from all the cool kids. And I never really minded it much. I very much enjoyed my own company when I was a boy. I would climb trees. I would go exploring in the forests around my parents' house. I would build things. I would create. I would play records, and I would create my own concerts. I guess I always wanted to be on the stage. And that wish was granted. My mother put me into a dance troupe. I've told that story on another video. My father tried to get me into guitar lessons and accordion lessons, but I was never really musically inclined. As I say in my show, I could make the notes, but I couldn't create the music, if you understand what I mean. When I wanted to put my heart into something, when I wanted to say what was going on inside of here and inside of here, I would write words, I would pick up a pen. Throughout it all, I stayed on stage. A particular anecdote that a former partner once said of me: when I was 6 years old, I was put into a dance troupe of 12 boys and girls. I was number 12. Then I started doing plays and I did musicals. And later on in high school and college, I fronted rock bands. Couldn't play an instrument, but boy, I knew how to eat up a stage. And then at 27, I became a magician. And it seems that I started off in big troupes, and I eventually just whittled everything down until I was the only one left on stage. I use my voice to tell stories. I use the magic that I've learned to enhance those stories. And I do it alone. I walk on stage alone, and I walk off stage alone. James Anthony Froude once said, "We are born alone, and we die alone. Everything we do in between is up to us." In March of 2020, my home was taken away. My stage was closed. The bar that I performed at closed, and I had no place that I could perform. I used to say that if everything went away, if all the jobs and the corporate work and the magic castle and the bars that I worked at, if all that was taken away, if things just happened that those places weren't open, I could go back to my roots. I could work on the street. 1993, I started being a magician by working on the street. I set up a table and I put out a deck of cards, And as I was learning tricks through books at home, I would put those out to the people on the street. But in 2020, I couldn't do that anymore. I was forced to stay in this room for 15 months. And I studied, and I practiced, and I rehearsed, but I had no feedback. I had no group of people to pour love into. Something you may not know about me. I'm not good in social situations. I'm not good with groups. I'm good with audiences. I'm good at standing in front of people and pouring my heart out and wearing it on my sleeve as big as life. But if you put me in the middle of those people, if it becomes a group instead of an audience, the anxiety slams me shut. I will nod, I will sip a drink and stand in the corner and listen to everyone else talk and gather stories. And gather stories. I stole my entire act. Everything that you see me do was stolen from an event that happened in my life. The heartache, the uplifting, the relationship I had with my parents, all of that was taken and put into my act, stolen from my own life. Also stolen from the books that I read and the relationships that I had, the scars that were left from the relationships that I had, the scars that were left on me from the comments that I read in YouTube channels. So there I was, March on into April, May, and June of 2020, and the world went crazy. And I was immersed, like a lot of us were, in the huge division of opinions that were happening in the world at the time. It was distracting. It was painful. It was not good for my head. I started therapy, and that may have been the best decision that I made of all of 2020. And rather than letting the anxiety overwhelm me, rather than letting my fear and my depression take me over, instead, I got to know myself. I looked at the things that I've done in my life. I looked at the change I wanted to see in the world, and I put it forward, unapologetically. I gained a lot of enemies by doing that. People that just are obsessing over me till this day over a few words I said. That's okay. I learned to love myself. I learned to live with the choices I made. Why my marriage ended. The ongoing dysfunctional relationship that I have with my children. We are both learning. We are all learning. My children and I are learning to love each other and to grow close again. And I have great hopes for the future in that. But until that time, I am learning to love myself and to be comfortable with the decisions that I made. Not all of them were good decisions, but that's okay too. I'm learning to live with those and learning to love the outcome of the place that I put myself in. When you find yourself in solitude, wrap it around yourself like a warm blanket. Put aside loneliness, understand that as a feeling, and it's okay to feel it for a moment, and then set it aside as it doesn't really help. Learn to love yourself, and learn to set up the boundaries that you need for other people who want to love you. I am caught between the need for affection and physical love and the desire for solitude. I've come to really enjoy my time alone, a time to study, a time to read, a time to expand my mind into other cultures, other ways of life, a time to write, a time to find new ways to create, to make magic, to make new words, a time to simply stay up all night and just be. Just be. Be yourself. Find your heart. And in the search for yourself, discover the gifts and the skills that you have been given and prepare in that time to share them with others, either virtually like this or hopefully in the near future in a very physical, real sort of way. Play. Make a puzzle. Play like you were a child again and you're there in your room and you're bored and you make up a story. Build your Legos. Put together your Lincoln Logs if you still have those. Create and build, and while you're doing that, create within yourself. Create love for yourself within yourself. And in that way, in that fashion, you'll be able to give it to the world in a very real and tangible way. Solitude happens. And sometimes it happens decisively. And if you can find the way to use the alone time to create, to love, to be kind to yourself, then the time is not wasted. Put on your music. Dance because nobody's watching. And when you're ready, pick up the phone. Reach out to someone who might be having trouble with their own solitude. Make that phone call. Make that FaceTime. Send that text. Say, hey, brother, sister, sibling. Pick your pronoun. I love you. And I'm here. Even though we can't be together physically, even though I can't reach out and touch your face, I'm still here and my heart reaches to yours. Call out to the universe for what you need. Love yourself for exactly who and exactly where you are. I do card tricks. That's my job description. I shuffle papers and I tell stories. But I've changed my world, and I've brightened the world of people around me, even people I've never met before, like you. And you get to change my world too. I cannot wait to see what you create. I'm on your side. Though you may be in solitude, you are not alone. Wherever you are, whoever you are, I hope there's love. I hope there's love where you are.